Greetings, friends. It's me, Wayman, and come on to do another video, Judges for Dummies. And this video is going to be on the character Abimelech, Judges 9. And I'm going to take my time with this. This is going to be a regular, rather lengthy video. And for all two of you who follow along with this, hang in there because there's a lot of good stuff. And I love this stuff. This is why I'm making these videos. And hopefully a couple people that tag along as I go through this study might have ideas of their own and can put them in the comments. If you've read articles or books concerning the topic, feel free to talk about it. Have a lot of great comments, and thanks for that. So getting into Judges 9, we're going to first discuss a little bit of background and think about what we're reading, because a lot of times people don't do that. So first we're going to think about the politics of the Deuteronomistic writer, roughly or maybe around the time of Josiah. What was this writer, or the redactor, trying to say about the reforms of King Josiah? Also, what did the writers try to say about Saul? Because as we've seen in the last videos, all through Judges is a dig on Saul. So we'll try to look for that. Also, the anti-monarch ideas and the pro-monarch ideas. And within all of that, the politics on what was preserved of the tribes interacting together in the early Israeli League. So here we have a league of tribes, loosely knit, and from this text you'll see that possibly these tribes paid people, especially the merchants, to ensure the safety of trade and to set some kind of standard and enforce some kind of rule of law. And we'll see the dealings that were going on of Abimelech, and also some of the intertribal squabbles that happen here, where Gideon, or Jerubbaal, ends up having a handmaiden in Shechem, and so he has a son who isn't a rightful heir. And what is the literature saying about that? So, getting right into the meat of things, Abimelech, the son of Jerubbaal, went to his mother's house, his brothers in Shechem, and spoke to them and to the whole clan of his mother's family. So, here in Judges 9:1, Abimelech goes to the mother's side, and he's trying to make a deal to the citizens of Shechem on his mother's side. So he's saying, hey, why are you being ruled by 70 of sons of Jerubbaal? Why not be ruled by one person? And hey, my mother's here, I'm your flesh and blood, so I would be a better ruler. And noticing all through Judges 9, it's not Gideon. It's by his Canaanite name, Jerubbaal, which Gideon's father gave him. So that's pretty interesting too. So they give Abimelech, and they agree with him, they give him 70 shekels from the temple of Baal-berith. So these temples, just like the temples of Horus, different sections of the patriot deity, would be named after that deity. So you could have a whole bunch of towns with different names containing Horus, but the second name would be different. So you'd have the patron deity being named and holding a special name for each town, rather. So what's funny here is in Judges 9:4 is that Abimelech takes the money, and the text says Abimelech hired some worthless and reckless followers and they followed him. So then he went down to his father's house in Ophrah. So he leaves Shechem, goes to Ophrah, and killed his brothers, the sons of Jerubbaal, 70 men on one stone, and only Jotham, the youngest son of Jerubbaal, survived because he went in hide. So 69 people get killed. Whether this was a sacrifice to Baal or just a mass execution, don't know. Agamemnon slain his daughter. So there's plenty of examples in literature of human sacrifice happening. But moving on, all the citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo convened, and they proclaimed Abimelech king at the terebinth of the pillar at Shechem. When Jotham was informed, he went and stood on the top of Mount Gerizim and called out to them in a loud voice. Citizens of Shechem, he cried, listen to me, that God may listen to you. So then we get from Judges 9:8 to 20, that beautiful parable that was inserted, maybe later, talking about choosing the right king, and maybe this was a warning thrown right in the middle of this story. And it's beautiful. If you have a Tanakh with Hebrew text that writes it in the poetic format, you'd be able to see that. So after the parable, Jotham, he fled, he ran to Beer and stayed there because of his older brother Abimelech. And Abimelech held sway over Israel for 3 years. So then things start going awry. The God sent a spirit of discord between Abimelech and the citizens of Shechem. And the citizens of Shechem broke faith with Abimelech. So here, the theological slant on this chapter talks about it's going to be God's revenge for killing the sons of Jerubbaal on the stone against Abimelech. So this is going to be the tragedy of Abimelech here. It's pretty interesting. So now, then Gal, the son of Ebed, and his companions came passing through Shechem, and the citizens of Shechem gave him their confidence. So what's interesting is, before this though, and I skipped this part, the citizens of Shechem, in verse 9:25, go against Abimelech, and they set him up. Mainly, they have people steal and do all these things. So it appears that Abimelech isn't able to protect him. So this other person comes in, Gal, the son of Ebed, and his companions, and they start talking trash. And they went out in the fields and gathered and trod out the vineyards and made a festival. And they entered the temple of their God, and they ate and they drank, and they reviled Abimelech. So here they're starting the political campaign against Abimelech. They said, who is Abimelech? And who are the Shechemites? So now, what Gal, the son of Ebed, is going to do is take Abimelech and associate him with Jerubbaal, the father. So basically he's saying, no, he's not one of us. He's from Jerubbaal. Gideon. He's not your brother, so why should we serve him? And so, he starts saying, if I had command, I would challenge Abimelech. Well, Zebul, the governor of the city, heard the words. He's still sympathetic with Abimelech, and he's furious. So he sends messengers to Abimelech, and saying that Gal was in town, and his companions, they came to Shechem, and they were inciting violence and politically turning the city against him. So he tells them to set out at night with the forces that you have, and conceal yourself in the fields. Early in the morning, as the sun rises, advance on the city. He and his men will thereupon come out against you, and you will do to him whatever you find possible. So that's in 9:33. So Abimelech and all of his men, they do what they're told. And Gal, the son of Ebed, come and stood at the entrance to the gate. Abimelech and the army with him emerged from concealment. So this is interesting here. Gal saw the army, and Jerubbaal, who was sympathetic to Abimelech, he says, hey, I see the army coming down the hill. And Jerubbaal says, nah. It's just a shadow of the hills that look like men to you. What you're seeing is a bunch of baloney. Don't believe it. So Gal spoke up again. He's like, look, there's men marching down the hill. Another column is coming from the direction, And Jerubbaal said to Gil, where is your boast? Who is Abimelech that we should serve him? So here he reminds him what he said. And he said, there is the army you sneered at. Now go out and fight it. So Gal went out at the head of the citizens of Shechem and gave battle to Abimelech, but he had to flee before him, and Abimelech pursued him, and many fell slain on the way at the entrance of the gate. And Abimelech stayed in Amra, while Jerubbaal was expelled. Well, Jerubbaal expelled Gal and his companions and kept them out of Shechem. So here what's interesting is, because Gal couldn't resist Abimelech's advances, the governor, Jerubbaal, who was sympathetic with Abimelech, expelled Gal and his companions out of Shechem. I guess they feared for the city. The next day, when the people went out into the fields, Abimelech was informed. Taking an army, he divided in 3 columns and lay ambush in the fields. And when he saw the people coming out of the city, he pounced on them and struck them down. And while Abimelech and the column that followed him dashed ahead and took up position at the entrance of the city gate, 2 other columns rushed upon all that were out in the open and struck them down. So basically they cut them off at the gate, and then they had a big fight in the middle. Abimelech fought against the city all that day, and he captured the city and massacred the people in it, and he razed the town and sowed it with salt. So here's granular salt. Interesting there. Think about that. This is pretty early. And when all the citizens of the Tower of Shechem learned of this, they went into the tunnel of the temple of El-Berith. So Abimelech, he's informed that they're in the tower and in the temple. So he takes an axe in his hand and he cuts down trees, and he tells everybody to do it themselves. Lays up a fire and smokes them out. They all die of smoke inhalation in a fire. And Abimelech proceeds to Thebez, and they occupy it, and which is another town. And within the town was a fortified tower. So he's going to do the same thing. He's going to burn it down. Abimelech pressed forward to the tower and attacked it. He approached the door of the tower to set it on fire, but a woman dropped an upper millstone on Abimelech's head and cracked his skull. So he immediately cries out to his attendant, his arms bearer, draw your dagger and finish me off, that they may not say of me, a woman killed him. So his attendant stabbed him, and he died. So Saul, for the most part, dies of his armor bearer stabbing him. And there's a really good article in BAR on biblical suicides. So Samson and a whole bunch of others, especially there was a story of a character in Maccabees who disemboweled himself as a form of suicide. So these ideas were taken differently than they are now in modern culture. So when the men of Israel saw that Abimelech was dead, everyone went home. And so here's the theological point. Thus, God repaid Abimelech for the evil he had done to his father by slaying his 70 brothers. And God likewise repaid the men of Shechem for all their wickedness. And so the curse of Jotham, Jerubbaal, was fulfilled upon them. So, pretty interesting. So you can see how the tribes interacted and undercut one another, had power plays, and right in the midst of that is this beautiful piece of Hebrew poetry. So check that out. That would be Judges 9 to 20. Judges 9 to 9:20. So take care, friends. Hopefully you enjoyed that long commentary. Be well, and remember, if everybody's thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking.